Our research threw up the fact that while you were a global strategist at Morgan Stanley, you used to visit a different country every month.
Right. Yes, that's right. I was at Morgan Stanley for 25 years. Apart from being the chief global strategist on the investment management side, I also ran their global emerging markets portfolios. And as part of my learning, for much of the 25 years that I was there, I would try and go to one emerging market a month. And that formed my first book, Breakout Nations,
Yes.
which was like an economic travelogue of the world. It captured all my observations from all these travels. So it was a great learning experience, to go to China, Brazil, South Africa, or some countries even like Peru and Chile. So it was a great journey of the world, and I really learned a lot doing that and tried to create a system out of that, okay, after all these travels, you put all the knowledge together,
Right.
and then how you're able to predict which countries will do well and which will fail.
So, what is the most fascinating thing you've learned on your travels? Where you're like, wow, I did not know this is how things are.
To every country I go, like you always learn something new, and you have really so many fascinating experiences where it's meeting different leaders and seeing how they change over time. Like one of the more fascinating stories that I speak about is about my interaction with Putin.
Okay.
So, for example, I first met Putin at, when he came to New York in about 2003 or so, and he would speak to foreign investors there at conferences. And that was a Putin who kept saying that he wants to change Russia, he wants to make it more pro-Europe. And typically, after a country has gone through a massive period of turmoil,
Yeah.
there is a consensus among people that we need stability, we need someone to come and fix things. And that's what Putin really did for Russia. He was a classical reformer in the early few years that he came to power. And then I fast forward to the interaction I had with him in 2010 and how he had, by then, power had gone to his head. The price of oil had gone to over $100 a barrel. And so I had a pretty scary encounter with him back in 2010. And after that, I've never been back to Russia.
Scary how?
So if I can sort of indulge the viewers in this little anecdote, which is that in 2010, I was invited to Moscow to speak there at a conference. So I took the invitation, and then I was told that at that conference later, Putin is also going to be there. And then his office called me and said that since he's there, it would be great if you can make a presentation about what does a large foreign investor like you frankly feel about Russia. So I took that a bit too seriously. I'm a writer at heart and a journalist at heart at some level. And I said, okay, I'm going to make a frank presentation. So then I land up at the Moscow Convention Center and I get on stage. Putin is sitting there on stage as well. And I begin my presentation. And the gist of my presentation is the fact that addressing him in a way that when you came to power in the year 2000 or so, you were a reformer, you brought stability back to Russia, you did these great reforms, and that powered Russia ahead for a few years. But today, these are all the problems in Russia, that there's arrogance and complacency setting in, there's too much corruption, no mid and small size businesses, just living off one industry of oil at $100 a barrel and stuff like that. So I went on about that. And I could make out there was a lot of unease in the audience. And what I did not bargain for was that this is being telecast live across in Russia. And so
you were breaking all the unsaid rules.
Probably, because I finished my presentation and I knew something had gone wrong. I wasn't quite sure what it was. I took some comfort for the fact that Putin, after that, I shook hands with him, and then he spoke about his vision of Russia, where he referenced my presentation a couple of times. So I thought, okay, this has gone okay. But then the organizers didn't talk to me. I went back to my hotel. Next morning, I was woken up by a very senior person from Morgan Stanley in New York. And that person was telling me that in terms of what have you done? And I was like, what have I done? He said, haven't you read the press this morning? I said, I don't read Russian press. What's happened? It's all Kremlin controlled.
Yes.
And they're really gone after me in the media to say that you have come here, you have spoiled the party, and who needs your money? And we have $100 a barrel oil, and we have so many things going. And in terms of, that if people like you are here, we don't need your money, you can take your money and leave and stuff. And I was advised by my office that you better leave the country. So I left Russia then, and I've never gone back. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been back. So it was a bit of a hairy experience back then, but it taught me again that how leaders change over time. So that's one of the rules that I kept in mind, that when a new leader comes to power, they behave very differently, and the longer a leader stays in power, more likely like the diminishing returns to power. So that's what these visits did, that it triggered some thought, and then I would go back to the office and get my researchers to actually quantify this, right? Because these could be anecdotal stuff. This is one leader, but does it really work? But yeah, it does work, which is that if you look at stock market returns of different countries, you find even in the US, the first term tends to be much better than the second term. There's a second term curse which they refer to.
New leader is only a new leader for that much time.
Yeah,
they become an old leader. Yeah.
New energy, new leadership, they come there, they do stuff. Now, there are no 100% rules, there will always be exceptions, but the weight of probability is against